We are just 1 week out from the Breeders' Cup. Breeders' Cup Friday and Saturday. Just a week out. Friday, November the 1st, Saturday, November the 2nd. 14 championship races, and the pre-entries are available. They came out on Wednesday. We're recording this on Thursday. The we is me and my good friend Barry Spears, the sniper. So Barry, buddy, it gets closer and closer, but then when those pre-entries are out, it feels real because we have a pretty good idea where most of these horses are going to go. And then on Monday with the draw, everything gets finalized. So we can already start looking and making some opinions. Nothing can get finalized till we know the draw and the full fields and what the pace looks like. But it's nice that we can start looking and start getting some work done.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the biggest day or 2 days of the year, wagering wise. So, having all your ducks in a row, or at least kind of the direction you want to head would be okay at this point. Like you said, nothing's really finalized until they get those entries and the post positions and everything set. But until then, definitely taking a look.
You got European horses you want to get, some replays in. You can look at some charts and see how some of the races have come back with some of these horses, and then you can start to map out pace and stuff like that when horses get post positions and when you see them all after the draw. But yeah, there's definitely things you can check out along the way. And what's nice, if you purchase the Breeders' Cup package at drf.com, right now you can take a look at the pre-entries, and then as soon as they go official on Monday, they just push those official entries right on over to you. So you get the deal, you save some money right now, and then as soon as they go official, you have them ready. You get everything else you need with the Clocker reports. We've seen Mike Welsh already having the Clocker report videos up at on the DRF YouTube, and then the written reports are available via DRF articles. So DRF's ready to rock right now. I know they're already folks down on the ground at Del Mar, right, giving you everything, and I'll be heading down there a few times throughout the week. So a lot of things to help you out. But what'll help us out the best, Barry, if we can make some money this weekend over at Keeneland, because they close shop this weekend over at Keeneland. You and I are going to talk about Saturday, which is a big day because, mandatory payouts. I know Churchill Downs will open up Sunday, the next day. And you've looked at a lot of the racing in Kentucky coming up this weekend. So I'm going to pick your brain and hope you can lead us to a few winners like you always tend to do. A nice little card to finish up Saturday, October the 26th. Let's look at the late pick 5 sequence that starts in race number 6. It's the Bowman Mill. This is a $200,000 stakes for 2-year-olds going 6 furlongs here, Barry. And from a starting standpoint, you have Macho Music, who's really fast. He's won 2 in a row by open lengths, first at Gulfstream, then over here at Keeneland. Easy victories. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have a horse like Mitty's Gritty, who came from way out of it first time. And that's never easy to do when you close from 12 lengths in your career debut as a 2-year-old. Politically Correct has faced a little bit tougher. Those are some of the interesting horses in here. And then to the outside, we have 2 Wesley Ward runners that are entered on Friday and on Saturday in the same spot. So one of them will go Friday, one of them will go Saturday in these races here. So talk to us about some of the horses on your radar in this 2-year-old stakes.
Yeah, this is a really, really tough event. I mean, literally any of these horses could win.
Yep.
Like any one of them. 1 through 7 have a pretty good chance, if things break the right way for them. But it seems like there may be some speed here, and it kind of sets up for a horse like Mitty's Gritty.
I think so too.
I think that horse being as far back as he was early in his only race was kind of it was fluky. I don't think he was ever meant to be that far back, and the horse didn't really show any interest, and then just kind of locked in and flew by everybody. I would expect a horse to show a little bit better speed and run more, like professionally earlier, which might make the difference. Had kind of reminiscent of Chancellor McPatrick a little bit with that run. And a horse like Politically Correct is another one that has some versatility, I think, and can be placed kind of anywhere. I think Jose Ortiz is going to have this horse in the right spot and able to attack the lead when they hit the top of the stretch, because that's been the move pretty much all meet long. If you're not on the lead, right at at the horse's neck at the top of the stretch, to make those runs. But this is a really tough race. I couldn't blame anybody, honestly. For myself, who's not an all guy, I could understand somebody doing that in this race.
The two horses you mentioned were the top two for me as well, for a lot of the same reasons that you said. It just seems like with these younger races, I like looking at horses who I know can come from off the pace a little bit. And so that's definitely Mitty's Gritty. We know that. And Politically Correct. Very easy to go through his 4 races. His first 3 were good. And then in the Iroquois, he was in a little tough that day. And then he had a slow start chasing a gate to wire winner. So he just never had a shot. After that slow beginning, he just wasn't involved, and there wasn't much passing in that race. So I think he fits really well. Just like you said, we've seen him show different dimensions, and the Barnes had a really nice meeting. 3 and 5, definitely going to be in the late pick 5 for me. The 4 is the horse to catch and beat, but it just looks like there's a good amount of other speed. So those are the 2 I definitely wanted to mention.
One that I would say might, because these horses are so closely matched, that you might want to, give a second look or even a throw on is the 1, Tough to Catch. This horse has some gait problems previously and is stuck on the rail. I don't think that's ideal in this kind of race. I just would say that horse is probably going to get not the greatest of trips.
But certainly has ability.
Yeah, no, this horse can run. I mean, he's certainly good enough. But I just think the post position draw is really negative here.
That's the one Tough Catch. Let's move along to the second leg of the pick 5 sequence. Barry, we're going to move to race number 7. It's a mile turf event for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up, non-winners of 2. In this spot, we will see to the outside Cajo Beach take a good amount of money. One of the speeds in here, there's not a ton of speed, maybe 1 or 2 others with Cajo Beach, and she was really impressive. But it's always a little tough when a horse has a big speed figure like that. That's a little bit of it. She was on the improve moving forward, and she's still lightly raced, but that was definitely a lot faster than she had been running. So it wasn't as much of progression as it just was like a big
setup.
Right.
Good setup. She got a really good setup in that
Took
race.
advantage of it,
Yeah.
And at Kentucky, there were a lot of days where the turf course was playing very kind to the horses on the front end. And it's a weird kind of course. You get behind, it's a little bit more difficult to make up ground. So positives, she probably ran that race maybe a little faster than it looks overall. But from a talking standpoint, I think you have to start with her. And then one more to mention would be the 3, who's probably going to take some money too. I think Neon Beach, who gets back to the grass after taking a shot. And the dirt form's not bad, but the grass form overall just seems like she's had the higher ceiling there. So those are probably some of the top players in this one. Who are the horses you want to mention here?
Yeah, I think, Cajo Beach is up against it from the outside. I really don't think this horse wants to go super fast. And there's a possibility that she gets hooked.
Yep.
And there's a speed duel and the pace gets too hot up front for her and the others. But Neon Beach seems to be the biggest beneficiary of all that. This horse has some pretty good races on the grass to go to. And I think the trip is just going to lay out perfectly for a horse like this. This horse is in the Penn Oaks, and 2 horses in that race. The top 2 finishers are running on Friday. And I would keep an eye on that race if you're inclined to see what they do.
Maybe you'd even upgrade this one. Yeah.
Right. To see how this one may run on Saturday. But Neon Beach looks like the one. Bell of Rights is the other.
Yep. That's what I like.
My eye. I mean, this horse is definitely on the improve. And I think that improvement's going to continue. Shug second off the layoff like this is probably his best move. So I think this one is ready to go with Luis Saez.
So she was in Colonial on September the 7th in her most recent race. She was down on the inside. She was 6th. She didn't really have anywhere to go. She had to wait, and she was buried inside, just nowhere to go. She got a seam late, and she did show some good late energy. The race is a little bit sneaky, and it's a little better than it looks on paper. And if you look at the company she faced in there, she faced some really nice horses like Style Points, who came out of that race and went and finished third in the Grade 2 Sands Point, was favored that day. The runner-up, Deep Satin, or they dead heated Style Points and Deep Satin. So both of the winners that day are solid horses. Deep Satin has not come back and run since that one, but going into the race, you could see was a very nice, lightly raced horse for Cherie DeVoe. I honestly think any of the top 4 finishers that day, the horses that finished in front of Bell of Rights, would probably be very, very live in this race. Like they might be the second choice behind the 11, any of the top 4 finishers. So she fits well. She faced a little tougher in her last couple, and now she gets a slight drop in class. This is a really good spot for her. And the way we're projecting the race, if she can just stay, like the key for horses like her, Barry, can she be 6th or 7th and not dead last? Can you be not 12th in this race, and can you be 7th and already not have to get in front of 4 or 5 other horses and maybe get 1 or 2 other like little bits of traffic that you get stuck in? That's always the key, especially when she's down on the inside saving ground, because I like her in this spot.
Yeah, I mean she's going to be tough. Another horse I'll give a shout out to, at least the big price on the morning line, is Spotty Showers, the 8. If this pace collapses up front and just a pace meltdown, I think this horse would be there to pick up the pieces.
The recent grass form's been really good.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. And got beat by Strike When Ready, and those two weren't far apart. And one's 12-1 in this spot, and probably going to get bet a little bit. And this horse is 20-1. So I'm going to take the 20-1 shot. I'd throw this horse in multis for sure.
I'll give one big price if you were looking for an under horse, or if this is a spread out leg and you're looking for a couple fun prices. Barry gave you one. The 6 Lady Emily Catherine. Just go through her recent form. So that last start on a good turf course over at Saratoga. Maybe she doesn't like the course. Loses to a horse named Aspen Grove. This is a Grade 1 winner who then went over and was second in the Grade 2 Rodeo Drive at Santa Anita on October the 5th. So that's a nice horse she was losing to. The runner-up, Avenue Neal, came right back out of that race to win the next start, a non-winners of 2, and then was only beaten a couple lengths against Graded Stakes Company. So thought that was a pretty good field, and maybe a turf course that she didn't really like. Before that, on June the 20th, at Churchill, just misses the break, never really gets into it that day. I think you can eliminate that. If you have to go through some of the races, but the Keeneland race on April the 14th, sitting 4th, not too far off of it, makes an early move, wins that race at 20-1, not bad at all. You go back to February at Gulfstream, has some trouble there that day, doesn't really get a chance to stretch the legs. Prior to that, breaks the maiden at Gulfstream. Like, you start to go through the form, a lot of it makes sense. Even these grass races before breaking the maiden are not bad. There are a lot of times where this horse has shown up and been pretty competitive on the grass, and she's 15-1. She adds the blinkers. Maybe that could help her just get a little bit more focus, even if it's not more speed, just kind of keeping her in the race a little more. Interesting price horse to throw in if you're looking for one here.
Yes, she seems to like Keeneland a little bit. I mean, their 2 races are
really good. Yeah.
Yeah. I just don't know what happened in July and August this year. That would be the question. And there's definitely a projection of this horse getting a really, really good trip. If this horse is ready,
and if you want to say June, she misses the break and she's just out of it, and then Saratoga doesn't like the good turf, and it's a pretty good race, and she gets to the lead early but just stops. Right. So maybe she didn't like the good going. If you can make those 2 excuses and just get back to that April race, she's very playable off of that.
Absolutely.
So cool race to play with some nice prices here. Race number 7 at Keeneland on Saturday. Barry, as we turn the page to race number 8, you've got some stuff coming up. You're doing ESPN Louisville, I know, and you're going to be talking about some big races this weekend. You're also doing the a new podcast. Well, you're a new co-host of the podcast with Chase. Give us a mention on that before we flip to the graded stakes races here.
Yeah, it's the Notorious OTB podcast with myself and Chase Sessoms. We do a couple shows a week, just kind of laying out some betting strategies. We give out a couple of tickets, which I usually don't do a lot of. So, and I'll kind of go into.
And you nailed one the other day already.
I did the first
like $1,200 or something.
Yeah, hit it twice.
Nice. Beautiful.
So yeah, I'll throw some tickets out there and stuff like that, so we can all learn together. That's what it's all about.
Okay, well, let's get into the Fayette. And in this one, there isn't a ton of early speed in here. There's a couple that you could see on the lead. Tumbarumba, really tough, really honest horse. You can see this horse fights, never wins or loses by a lot, but has been second now in 4 straight races and 5 out of the last 6. So just really fights, but, comes up a bit short. In this race, though, he may be on the lead because there's not that much early speed. A horse who I think is a little interesting too, Barry, and I'm going to throw in because of that, is the 9 Grand Aspen, who last year was in the Todd Pletcher barn. And if you look at the form, this horse had a stretch of 6 really good races in a row, a couple of them on the grass, flipped over to the dirt, ran on October the 22nd at Keeneland in a first level allowance race, ran really well that day, down on the inside, was behind horses, finished third, was only beaten a neck, thought it was a really good performance. And then they step up, win at Churchill, go over in the Harlan's Holiday at Gulfstream, and only beaten a neck by O'Connor, who was in good form at that time. They actually thought this horse was in good enough form to throw them in the Pegasus World Cup. And we haven't seen him since January the 27th. Now he shows up in a race where I think Hit Show's the horse to beat. He's in good form right now. He was pretty good last year, so he's won 3 of his 4. But there's not a bunch of monsters that scare the heck out of me in here. Evenly matched group, some horses I could see winning. I think he could get a pretty good trip in here, Barry. So I'm going to throw him into my pick 5s, Grand Aspen. Probably Tumbarumba, even though he's not really a mile and an eighth-er. He just could get a nice trip in here because there's not that much early speed. Those are a couple of the price horses on my radar. How about for you?
One horse I like quite a bit in this spot is the 4 War Campaign.
Yep, and for some of the same reasons. He might not have to be too far out of it, too. He's kind of tactical.
Yeah, I think he's going to be closer up. I think Tyler's going to get him in the game quicker. I mean, the track profile of this meet has been, mostly forwardly placed on the dirt. And, getting that position, and I think he's going to use Tumbarumba kind of as a lead blocker and just kind of follow that horse, and that would be absolutely perfect.
Yep.
But this horse has some races to go to. He's got 2 wins at this distance, 2 of his 4 wins. He is sort of win challenged, as they say. He doesn't he's a little bit camera shy, I guess.
But he's faced recently, look, that
really good horses. Yeah.
The 3 races in a row, he faced First Mission, Kings Barnes, and Highland Falls. I mean, all 3 really nice horses. Highland Falls is going to be a Breeders' Cup Classic contender.
Right. And I think that combined with getting to this distance and the slight class relief puts this one in a good spot. And I think the price will hold or be around,
I agree.
7, 8 to 1.
Because I think Hit Show is going to take money. And then after Hit Show, Rattle and Roll will take a little money. And then nobody should be that, then everyone else should be kind of spread out a little bit. And War Campaign should be right in that, between 6 and 10 to 1 range, I think.
I'm with it.
Yeah.
That's where we're going. I like that horse quite a bit here. I do like that one.
Fun races in that we have some opinions on these horses that we think will be fair prices. And that's what you're looking for in a pick 5 sequence. At least a couple races where you like these middle price horses that you think have logical chances of winning. As we move to race number 9, Barry, it is the Bryan Station, going a mile on the turf course. So just to mention some of the top contenders in here, Trickery. I was going Tricari forever. And then and then
Everybody
realize,
was.
yeah.
Everybody
And
was.
then
I was
it's
thinking
like
that.
one of those things where it's just like, someone's last name is a certain way. And then all of a sudden it just flips and you start having to call them a different thing. It's like, oh, I guess
Oh.
I guess that happened, but Trickery, I'll go with. Faced Older last time, did not run poorly at all. He just ran into Johannes and Almendaris and Conclude, who are very nice horses on the West Coast, and Older, a little more proven. Now he gets to come back to 3-year-olds in a really nice spot in a slight drop in class where he's still going to be running for $600,000. So not bad at all. Doesn't go on to the Breeders' Cup, but comes here. But he gets way out wide. So not the easiest post in the world. And with his running style, he has tactical speed. He's kind of versatile, but he doesn't really want to be on the lead. He wants to be sitting just off. And sometimes when you're wide like this, you can get a little bit parked. So that's at least something to mention with him, but he's probably the horse to at least start with, and I think the one they have to beat.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, class wise and it's probably speed figure wise the best horse in this race. But the great equalizer is post position number 11. I mean, this is going to be a tough task. I mean, the horse inside of him, Protective has some zip and probably will have to go. There's some other horses that might want to get in there. Demolisher, the 5, the 4, my boy Prince might want to get involved early.
I think has to be in here. He's a nice horse. He's a good horse. He was second in the King's Plate, and he ran in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf last year, and he ran really well. He finished 3rd that day, and he's the type of horse who's really fast. I feel like he's in this horse. He's got to be in here to go. That's his best chance. They just went a little fast for him in his most recent start. I feel like he wants to get aggressive. So, yeah, I think he'll be forwardly placed. At least a couple will.
So that just leaves Trickery. I mean, not even if Trickery doesn't necessarily want to go to the front, it's still going to make it difficult for this horse to find a nice
navigate,
spot to settle in. Yeah, I mean, if Manny decides to just take all the way back, that's always an option. But is that really the thing that this horse really wants to do? I don't think so. I mean, he's won off the pace before, but not from way back. I'd say he's just in a tough spot all the way around. But Neat is a horse that I like quite a bit here. Has some races behind Trickery, and mixing it up with Trickery, Laganos, Brilliant Birdie. But I think the rail draw is key, and the trip that this horse might get really sits well. Really, all Junior has to do is get this horse out of the gate in a good fashion. No stumbling or anything. And if this horse just kind of naturally gets out of the gate, I think that'll be perfect for Neat. Has the kind of races that can finish off this kind of group.
So I like the Neat race quite a bit. And I actually like Neat and Hershey better than Brilliant Birdie just coming out of that same race. Because if you watch the both of them, I thought, Neat overall, just getting a little too far back early on in this race. You're pointing out too how from the inside draw is key. I actually think Hershey might be one that gets a little forgotten about because Hershey was actually in a good spot, was in the 2 path, was right with the leaders, and then backed up, was sitting 4th on the inside, not even 2 lengths off, traveling really well. Absolutely nowhere to go. Tried to move in between horses, tried to move outside, finally got through. But at that point, Brilliant Birdie had built up all the momentum and got a smooth trip, while Hershey's kind of moving around, looking for room, can't find it. Then finally gets a little room, runs well, but Brilliant Birdie had already gotten the jump. Now you come back, drawn to the inside, first time gelding. I think can sit that type of trip you were talking about with Neat. Let me see this horse sitting a couple lengths behind, just saving ground behind a few of the speeds. I'm going to throw Hershey in for sure at a fair price because I think Brilliant Birdie is going to be 3 or 4 times less the price of Hershey in here.
Yeah. I think Hershey, like you said, is probably the forgotten horse. Just pretty much based on the connections alone.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly why. Yeah. Who else? Let's see. We talked about those
Logano's
few.
is interesting too. If you
Yeah,
can get that 15-1, because that horse is, just as good as anything as any of these, and it's right there. And one lucky break left or right or something, and this horse is in the winner's circle
at a big price. The 9 wouldn't shock me to see this horse run well. The only thing that concerns me is I'd like to have seen a little more experience going longer. Right? This is going to be this horse's first time going a mile. We've seen most of it sprinting. Doesn't mean the horse can't and ran well in that start, but a lot of times you get these horses that are late running sprinters or 7 furlongs. It's not quite the same, and the race doesn't shape up quite as well as you were hoping. So
he's running Group 1s overseas. You
very classy.
He's got some ability.
Yeah, super classy. And if you're using a few in here, I'm going to be throwing Evade in on one ticket where I'm using a couple. So, anything else you want to mention in here, buddy?
No, I think we covered it.
I think so too. Let's close this thing out. Race number 10, 6 furlongs on the dirt. We have maidens, and it's a maiden $150,000 claimer. So not a maiden special weight, but a very high level maiden claiming race in here. And I thought this one, as far as having like a real strong opinion, was a little challenging. 2 horses that will take money. The Chalk, who might be the Chalk in here, but was the beaten Chalk on the turf at Ellis Park last time. The debut was good, but had missed the break, finished second, and was still beaten 6 lengths. So we're talking about a horse who hasn't been closer than 5 lengths in either start, and will be one of the shorter prices in here. The 12, assuming will also take some money, getting a little class relief. Source got some action, showed speed in the debut. What wasn't the smoothest of races either, and the barn is very solid, and they do a really good job spotting their horses. So those 2 will take money, but I could use any horse in this race. I'm not even kidding. I think anyone I could be talked into, I could include. Start us out with a couple that you like.
I actually do have a strong opinion in this race, funny enough. It's number
Beautiful.
11.
I like it.
Desert Air.
Nice.
I think this horse is going to be pretty tough in this spot, based on that one race at Ellis. And it was pretty quick, and this horse showed some resolve, and then they tried to stretch this horse out, and it just didn't work out.
Early move.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, you'll see in the form the maiden special weight to maiden claimer, 0 for whatever, 0 for 12. That really doesn't apply here, because this really isn't your typical maiden claimer. There's horses that are stepping up in class, like the 12, for example, is stepping up.
Yeah, that's coming from Indy.
Right.
In for a tag, but the company is going to be equally as tough here, more tougher than in that maiden special weight.
Right. And, one thing about Desert Air that I like is he went longer last time and then cutting back. I think the cutback might make all the difference, where this horse won't have to be, or won't be so willing to try to force the issue and run off and
drawn really well.
Right. And be more professional this time, and kind of sit a little bit off the pace, because I think this pace is going to get hot.
Yeah.
You see a lot of horses in here with these bullet works and all kinds of stuff, like the 4, for example, has a few really fast works, but the barn's pretty cold. And the 3 has a nice work on October 18th. And I just think this pace is going to get hot.
Yep.
And I think the horses with experience will probably have a little bit of an edge. And I think Desert Air is the one to get it done, though.
Yep, and I like a couple others that, just like what you're pointing out, I had the 11 picked third. Definitely a horse I'm going to use all over the place for exactly the reasons you were pointing out. I thought the 8, and a lot of the reason why the 8, so the 8 got money in that debut at Churchill, and that was the race that Middy's Gritty came flying, right? So it was a really fast, contentious pace that set up for a horse to come from way, way out of it. So what do you usually want to do the next time? Kind of play the opposite of horses. You want to play those horses that might have been caught up early on, especially if you think a little more of them. And I think this horse is getting some class relief. Maybe doesn't need the lead, but just was down towards the inside, had a good start, and then you go on with it. You're not going to grab a hold of a horse first time out when you have a good start. But unfortunately, he ran into a lot of other speed that day. Now, second start, drawn a little towards the outside. I just think this race might shape up better for him in here. And one other that I wanted to mention.
It's got to be well meant. Free Country has to be well meant. If you're looking at the connections, the owner trainer.
Yep.
So yeah, they're definitely going to be trying to win this race, I think.
Yep. And the 5 is kind of like the 11 that you were talking about.
Yes.
The 11 has better overall form. The 5's pattern is similar, where he showed speed both races, went a longer last time out, a little bit of trouble there. Now you get the cutback, you get a little class relief, and you get like equipment change. You get a first time gelding here. I'm using this horse in multi exotics to close out in this race too. I'm throwing the 5 in.
Yeah, I mean, this race is pretty wide open.
It is really challenging.
Really wouldn't surprise me, who wins this race.
So we're gonna do our best to build the bankroll this weekend, because next weekend it is Breeders' Cup. Get on over to shop.drf.com. Start looking for Friday, for Saturday. There's a Breeders' Cup section with all sorts of news and articles at drf.com if you want help there. Barry, buddy, thank you so much. And next week, you're going to be being put to work, my friend. We're going to be recording early, and because I'm going to be back and forth a lot, I'm not even going to attempt to schedule a bunch of those different interviews with a bunch of different people, because I would make my head spin with as much as I'm going to be going back and forth. So I just said, you know what, let's just do it early in the week. You and I can get a lot of the stuff out of the way, so we can give people the time to listen in while they're doing all their final handicapping throughout the late part of the week. So we'll talk some Breeders' Cup early next week if you're up for it, my friend.
Always. I'm super up for it. I like the Classic this year. It's a good race.
It is. It feels like one of the, and a lot of times it's not always like a good betting race, but this year it feels like it's going to be a solid competitive group. Not as many necessarily standouts. Got a couple of horses coming from Japan. I think that should be really nice. So good flavor, lots of storylines in the Classic. We'll talk all about the Breeders' Cup next week. If you are watching on YouTube, if you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, that would be awesome. There will be a lot of Breeders' Cup analysis coming on this for you next week. So we'll have some Friday and some Saturday stuff for you. Barry, buddy, have a great weekend, my friend. Lots of racing for everybody next week.